How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another pool coaching video. For those of you that might be new to my channel, what I like to do in these types of videos is that pool players out there will record themselves playing through 2 or 3 racks of 8 ball for me to review. I'll watch each of the racks uninterrupted, except I might mention a comment here and there as the racks play by. But at the end of each racks, I'll go back to what I think are key areas where I can hopefully offer some type of advice. That could be a bad habit that I spot in their form. It could be a different run-up pattern than they chose, just as long as it's something that hopefully the player will be able to find helpful in order to improve their game. And for today's video, I'd like you to meet Gene. Now, Gene is a long-time player that has been playing ever since he's been 15. And for the last 25 years, he has played in the APA League and is currently a skill level 6 in both 8 ball and 9 ball. But now only plays in tournaments. And he tells me that he has played in 3 U.S. amateur qualifiers, but he's never been able to make it to the finals. And he's also participated in Derby City twice. And what he's going to do for us here today is play through 3 racks of 8 ball. So let's see what we can do to help him out. All right, Gene, show us what you got with this first rack.
Okay, little Chris, my name is Gene. We'll give this a shot.
Okay, nice head-on break there. We almost made the 15 ball into the side pocket.
Okay. Spread fairly good, but I do not like where my cue ball ended up.
That's true. Ideally, we would want the cue ball to land near the middle of the table after the break, especially for a spread like this. I can already say that I really like that you're studying the entire table before you make your first decision. If I had to guess, you're probably either going to start with the 3 ball, maybe even the 15 ball.
I think I like the solids a little better.
Okay, so more than likely you'll start with the 3 ball. Oh, what do we have here? Do you break with one cue ball and then shoot with another when you're practicing? Okay, nice shot there. Looks like you have position for the 6 ball. Good stroke.
Kind of a bad roll there.
Looks like maybe you were wanting position on the 5 ball on that one, but now it looks like you're going to have to shoot at the 1 ball.
Missed it.
Yep, just a bit of an overcut.
Okay, player 2.
Okay, so we broke dry as player 1. Player 2 chose solid, so now you're back to player 1 as stripes. Looks like you're eyeballing the 12 ball there. Okay, we're going to start with the 14.
Sloppy.
So you were probably wanting to draw back for, I think that's the 11 ball near the foot spot there. So we're going to shoot the 15 into the side pocket. Cue ball should be traveling up table. What ball are you going to get position on?
Well, I tried to hit it. I didn't hit it hard enough.
Oh, okay, so you were trying to separate the 9 and the 13.
This is not getting easier.
All right, so we're going to shoot the 10 ball into the corner pocket. So it looks like you're good to shoot the 9 ball. Yeah, what ball are we going to shoot at next here? Yeah, are we trying to walk the 9 down the rail there? Can we avoid the side pocket? Looks like we did. Oh, wow, nice shot. Nice smooth stroke. I like the control you have on the cue ball there. Very little movement. 12 ball into the lower left corner pocket. More than likely going to play the 8 ball into the lower right corner pocket. I like that you double check that it can go past the 5 ball. Ooh, bit of a kiss, but it still goes in.
Friends, I actually missed that ball.
No, you didn't miss it. You made it. Probably didn't mean to hit the 5 ball there, but you still made it. So that was actually really awesome. You finished the rack off as player 1 in only 1 inning there. So that's really, really good. I think maybe I saw about 2 or 3 spots that I can offer some type of advice. So let's go back and take a look at them. So here's the first spot in rack 1 that I wanted to comment on, and it's going to be with your break. Because you had said so yourself that you did not like where the cue ball ended up after the break over by the head rail. And that's really the only reason why I want to comment on this break, because I thought your break was well executed. You hit the cue ball good and clean. You got a decent spread. And because you did a head-on break, we almost saw that the 15 ball fell right into the side pocket, which is normally what's expected when you do this type of head-on break. But let's look at this rack a little bit more slowly and try to figure out why your cue ball came straight back to the head rail. I'm going to play this through slowly frame by frame, and we're going to see hopefully how you hit the cue ball. And if I had to judge because of where your cue is at onto the table, you must have put a little bit of bottom spin or below center on the cue ball. And when you're doing a head-on break like this, bottom spin on the cue ball is just not necessary. The weight of all 15 balls in the rack by themselves is automatically going to push the cue ball back from a head-on hit like this. And if your cue ball does have backspin on it, that's why it pretty much just drew straight back and then landed on the head rail. So I'm just going to play here and let's just watch the cue ball go straight back. I think it's a little bit of assistance by the 3 ball, but pretty much right after contact, it just came straight back. So what I can tell you here is instead of hitting the cue ball with a little bit of bottom spin, put a little bit of top spin. But don't put too much top spin because you don't want the cue ball to just drive right through the rack. Instead, you put just a little bit so that when the weight of the rack pushes the cue ball back, the little bit of top spin that you have on the cue ball fights back against that, and that's what hopefully helps land the cue ball near the middle of the table. It takes some practice to have that type of finesse, but seeing how you hit this rack here, I don't think it'll take you very long to be able to execute that particular type of break. Here's the next spot I want to comment on. This is when you're about to shoot the one ball into the upper right corner pocket and you had missed. Now, I'm not commenting on this shot because you missed. I'm commenting on this shot because of what you did during the execution of your shot. So let's have a look. You see how you lift your cue off of your bridge hand? So the reason why I'm commenting on this shot here is if I were to ask you, when exactly did you pick up your cue? Was it before you contacted the cue ball, during contacting the cue ball, or after contacting the cue ball? So let's go back and look at this slowly to see if we can see when it actually happened. So right here, I'm going to play this frame by frame and let's see what happens. So right there, you've struck the cue ball and we can already see that your cue is already slightly off of your bridge hand. And then if I just keep moving, your cue just goes higher and higher and higher. So this would tell me that you're picking up your cue while you're striking the cue ball. So how often have you actually miscued the cue ball when you're bridging over a ball or when the cue ball is actually lying next to a rail and you can only access the top portion of the cue ball? So this is a very common thing that happens. Even I still do it from time to time when you're using the open hand V bridge and having your cue lift off of your hand here. So since you're doing it while contacting the cue ball, you're actually at a very high risk of miscuing, especially if you just do it just a split second before you actually touch the cue ball. So all that I would ask is that you keep your cue in your hand at least for a slight second, maybe even a half a second right after contacting the cue ball. Then lift yourself up. Not just lift your hand off your cue, but go ahead and just get up from your shot. That way you're at least guaranteed that you made full contact on the cue ball and you're not risking any type of miscue. And this will be the final spot in rack 1 that I'm going to comment on. This is just after missing the one ball in the upper right corner pocket, and now as stripes, you started by shooting the 14 ball into the lower right corner pocket, and now you're about to come around to shoot the 15 ball into the right side pocket, and you had told us that you were trying to break apart the 9 and 13 ball over here because we heard you say that you didn't hit the cue ball hard enough. You slightly disturbed the 13 ball and your cue ball landed somewhere right around here while your 13 ball just moved slightly over here, but still was not able to pass by the 9 ball. You then resorted to a backup shot by shooting the 10 ball into the upper left corner pocket and then proceeded to run the rest of the stripes. So I have to ask, what made you feel the need to want to try to break apart the 9 and 13 ball? Because it would appear from this camera angle that the 9 ball can freely go into the corner pocket. So the only thing that you're possibly doing, well, not the only thing, but you are running the risk of making this small little clutter that doesn't really need to be disturbed worse. Now, if the 9 ball couldn't go into the corner pocket because enough of the 13 ball was actually blocking it, then I can clearly see a reason why you would want to try to break it apart, and this would be the shot to do it with. But from here, it doesn't look like it needs it. So the only thing I would have suggested is to play the shot the way that you did, but instead have the cue ball come off of the short rail and then just land somewhere here in the middle of the table for position on the 9 ball. Shoot the 9 ball into the corner pocket with a little bit of bottom spin so that way you can have the cue ball come over to the side rail and then back over for position on the 10 or even the 13 because you might actually clip the 13 from this angle when you shoot the 9. At the very least here, you wouldn't have to be bridging over the 13 ball like you did in order to make the 10 ball, but I think this makes the run out just a little bit easier and runs less risk than the shot that you actually did here. So if you see that there's a small clutter, but one of the balls can actually be made, I don't think there's necessarily a reason to try to break apart the clutter. Just get position on the ball that you can actually access and be able to make, and then just proceed to go from there. So that's all that I have for you here on rack 1. Let's see what you can do with rack 2. All right, so here we are with rack 2. Now you had won rack 1 as player 1. So this is player 1 breaking here. So that looked more like a cut break as your cue ball went over to the side rail and then spun back over to the head string. We still got a decent spread on the table, but we weren't able to make a ball.
good
So this is
spread.
player 2 coming to the table here.
Two balls tied up. One ball's tied. 11 balls tied up. Although I do have a pocket for it. Said ball go to 5. Actually, I can make that 11 ball.
Yeah, I really like that you study the table after the break like this and know what all the obstacles are. That way you can make a good decision on choosing solids or stripes. So it looks like we're going to choose stripes. I guess the 11 ball passes by the 1 ball. Good shot there. Not exactly sure what you're playing position on. I would have to think you were trying to get position for the 15 ball in the right side pocket. Just didn't draw it over enough. So you're grabbing the bridge there. You must be wanting to shoot the 12 ball now.
That 12 would be a trouble ball, so I'll try to get rid of that first.
I like that concept. I always like trying to get rid of trouble balls as soon as possible. You're now in a position where you can play the 12 even though you have to use the bridge. So this is a good shot to try.
I don't like my bridge position here.
Yeah, you got to work your way around that 3 ball. Okay, good shot. Little kiss on the 8 ball there. Looks like we have position for the 15 ball now into the right side pocket. Cue ball will naturally be heading up table over to the short rail, and you'll probably have it come back down for position on either the 9 ball or the 14 ball. Ooh, but that kiss on the 3 takes the position away from the 9 ball. It looks like you now have position on the 13 ball, but you still also have position on the 14 ball.
I see the 14, 9, 13, 10.
Okay, so you just called out an entire run out here, so let's see what you do with it. Good shot on the 14 ball. Looks like the 9 ball will be going into the lower left corner pocket, which means the 13 and 10 will most likely be going into the lower right corner pocket. Okay, checking to see where we want the cue ball to be when we shoot the 8 ball. I like that. Good shot. 8 ball in the side pocket.
Inside.
This will be another 0 inning match, or a 0 inning match for player 2. Oh, but we overcut the ball. Just a slight overcut.
Okay, got more work cut out for me now.
Yep, so we have an open table here, or a wide open table with solids here. Let's see what you do. Okay, I like starting with the 5 ball there. Now the 7 ball has a path to the same pocket. Okay, good shot there. Cue ball in the middle of the table. We have a number of options we can do from here. Okay, but it looks like we're going to try the 7 in the corner. We're having to slightly bridge over the 3 ball. You overcut the 7 ball, and it also looks like you disturbed the 3 ball a little bit with your bridge hand. So back over to player 2.
And that, my friend, is a scratch shot. Unless I really do something with 2 ball.
Yeah, it would appear if you try to cut the 8 ball into the corner pocket, you'll most likely scratch in the side. Cutting it to the side does possibly scratch in the corner as well, unless you control the cue ball. Pretty much like that. Good shot. But where's the cue ball going?
Cut like that and scratch it
Oh, no. That is not the way we wanted to be able to finish that rack. That was unfortunate. So player 1 actually wins that one, and I think that makes this a 2-inning rack. But considering that you practically ran the table after the break as player 2 and just barely missed that 8 ball by overcutting it, there's not really a whole lot that I can see here. I think I have maybe just 1 or 2 spots that I can possibly comment on. So let's go take a look at them. So here's the first spot in rack 2 that I wanted to comment on. This is the opening shot after the break where you decided to start with stripes by shooting the 11 ball into the corner pocket, and with bottom spin, you drew the cue ball down table, and I think you were trying to get position on the 15 ball to go into the right side pocket. You just fell a little short on that position, and your cue ball lands somewhere right around here, to which you had to grab the bridge, and you then shot the 12 ball into the lower right corner pocket. Then you were able to run the rest of stripes and just barely overcut the 8 ball. Now, had you not missed the 8 ball, it's not like there's really anything wrong with the pattern that you chose. We're just not really entirely sure on what your second shot was supposed to be. So what I wanted to offer at this spot here is just another pattern that I happen to see that I think I would have tried if I was at the table. Since you were able to draw your cue ball off of the 11 ball the way that you did, I probably would have allowed it to just roll over to the side rail. So this is probably more of a center ball hit, and let the natural angle bring the cue ball over here somewhere right around here for position on the 9 ball. Hopefully to be straight in with the 9 ball, because then I can just shoot the 9 ball in the corner pocket here. The cue ball can even just drag forward a little bit if it wanted to and replace the 9 ball, because then you have complete access to the 15 ball that you can roll in. The cue ball rolls forward for position on the 12 ball now. Because from here now, all we're doing is playing a rolling cue ball. I can play the 12 into the corner pocket, roll forward for position on the 10, play the 10 into the lower left corner pocket, roll forward for position on the 13, play the 13 in the upper left, roll forward for the 14, play the 14 in the side, stop the cue ball, and then play the 8 into the lower right corner pocket. So I think with this pattern here, there's just less cue ball movement, or having to have less control on the cue ball and really only controlling the speed of the cue ball. The only difficult shot that I see is more of the opening shot, trying to make sure that you get decent position on the 9 ball, because clearly it's not guaranteed. You just have to have good control of the cue ball. And then from there on out, all you're doing is just pushing the cue ball forward every time, not really using any types of side spins. And usually that's just the way that I prefer to play, because it's easier to control and I have a higher chance at being successful. And that's the only reason why I want to offer this type of pattern here, to where if you can see patterns like that, to where you're just having to control the cue ball less and less and rely more on the natural roll of the cue ball, you might have higher chances at running the table. And this is the second spot in rack 2 that I wanted to comment on. Here you were able to cut the 8 ball into the left side pocket, and you avoided scratching in the upper left corner pocket, but you still ended up scratching in the right side pocket. Now, what was interesting about this shot is that you had admitted that this was a scratch shot. But which scratch shot are you referring to? Are you referring to cutting the 8 ball into the upper left corner pocket and scratching in the left side pocket? Or are you referring to the shot that you took here, cutting the 8 into the left side pocket and then trying to avoid scratching in the upper left corner pocket, which you did? But the interesting part to me, though, is how you're cueing on the cue ball. It looks like you have some bottom spin on the cue ball, to which I would have expected this type of result. You'd cut the 8 ball into the side pocket and your cue ball would have missed on the right side of the corner pocket. But instead, your cue ball goes over here to the side rail. then it hits the short rail, and then it rolls all the way over here to the side pocket, which tells me you must have also had some right spin on the cue ball. So I think there's a couple of things that we must have misjudged here. The first one being the tangent line, which I'm going to have to guess that the tangent line is what takes you to the corner pocket. And that is if the cue ball slides into the 8-ball. Since you hit the cue ball with bottom spin and you didn't go to the right of the tangent line or below the tangent line and hit the short rail first, I can only guess that the cue ball did a drag shot. It spun backwards, slid, and then started rolling forward by the time it hit the 8-ball, and that's what allowed your cue ball to contact the side rail. And then when it hit the short rail, the right spin that you must have had on the cue ball caused you to scratch. So I think there's two corrections that we have here. The first one being is don't put the right spin on the cue ball, because then when it hits the short rail here, it doesn't go to the side pocket. Instead, it runs into the 4-ball or maybe even runs into the 3-ball, and the cue ball stays on the table and you end the rack. I think the other adjustment that you could have done here also is to not put any bottom spin on the cue ball. Instead, go ahead and just put a touch of top spin. That way the cue ball is immediately rolling forward right after contacting it, and when it hits the 8-ball, it just pushes itself above the tangent line and still makes it over to the side rail. But the key thing about that shot is you don't have to hit it as hard, right? We look at how you hit this shot here. I'm guessing this is a 9-foot table, so it looks like your cue ball must have traveled almost 9 feet, I think. 4.5 feet maybe to the 8-ball, another 2 feet or so to the side rail, and then come back around over to the side pocket. Maybe 9 to 11 feet. And with a center ball hit or maybe just a little bit of topspin, we could have hit the cue ball a lot softer and then probably would have gotten the cue ball to stop somewhere right around here, but pretty much take the same path that it took. Contact the side rail and contact the short rail. At least with a softer controlled hit, you have more control, easier to execute, higher chance at being successful. That's the main reason why I would suggest that. But I think the other thing that I would suggest is just making sure that we're fully aware if this is a scratch shot or not, because I just don't think it was, considering how you shot the shot here. Now, you could have forced it to scratch by getting the cue ball to slide into the 8-ball, but clearly we don't want to do that. So I think at best, have the judgment of the tangent line more accurate, and then know whether or not if you need to be above or below the tangent line. This is what I got for you here on rack 2. Now let's check out your final rack. All right, Gene, you're going into the final rack with only 3 innings, so you started off strong. Let's see if you can finish it strong.
I forgot I could take ball in hand after the break. So I will take advantage of that this time.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with taking ball in hand after the break. I'd actually prefer that you don't take ball in hand because it allows me to see your planning and strategy for your opening shot. Now, seeing how you made a stripe on the break for this rack, I'm really curious to see what stripe you're going to start with, considering that you're going to start with ball in hand. Better yet, viewers, what stripe do you think he should start with ball in hand?
Made a stripe.
You look deep in thought there. What are you going to do? Okay, it looks like you might be sizing up for the 14 ball in the right side pocket.
I don't have rotator cuffs on either side, so it's kind of hard for me to stretch out.
Oh, okay. So that's actually really interesting to know that you have a small physical limitation and you play as well as you do. So that would make sense with how you've done your position plays because you want to be able to reach the cue ball. Otherwise, you have to shoot with the bridge. So good shot on the 14 ball. Looks like you have good position on the 12 ball, the 11 ball, the 15 ball, and maybe even the 10 ball. I can probably guess that you're not going to shoot the 11 ball because that's probably going to require you to use the bridge if you're not able to stretch over and bridge over the 4 ball. Looks like you're going to choose the 12 ball. But we undercut the ball. So let's see what player 2 can do with solids. From here, it looks like you might have a combination with the 3 ball into the 2 ball, and I can't really tell if the 4 ball can go into the left side pocket. It looks like we're going to try the combination. Good shot there. Didn't really want the 3 ball to end up on the side rail like that.
Made a good shot, but I didn't get the position I needed.
Oh, really? So what position were you trying to go for on that shot? Okay, good shot on the 7 ball. I think the cue ball got away from you a bit there because I think you were probably wanting to get position on the 3 ball. So it looks like you're seeing if you can make the 1 ball into the lower left corner pocket. Could you possibly cut it into the side pocket? I can't really tell how close the 5 ball is to the side pocket. Maybe it helps make the pocket a little bit bigger with a possible carom shot. Quick glance at the 4 ball there. It looks like it's blocked by the 12 ball. Oh, just clipped the 10 ball there. Looks like we would have gotten position on the 3 ball, but back over to stripes. This looks like we can shoot either the 11 ball, the 9 ball, or maybe even the 10 ball. I would have to guess now, knowing about your rotator cuffs, that if you chose the 10 ball, you'll probably have to grab the bridge. Okay, that must be what you're going to shoot at. Let's see, what ball are you going to play position on, though? We can see that the cue ball will be rolling to the short rail. You can try to hit it soft enough and hold position for the 15 ball, pretty much just like that. No? Is that not what we were trying? Or did it roll too far?
Very uncomfortable bridge.
Oh, you're glancing at the 9 ball, so I'm guessing you wanted to roll a little farther and have position on the 9 ball. But now, since it didn't roll far enough, you're going to be shooting the 15 ball. Great shot there. We got position on the 9 ball now for the lower right corner pocket. Oh, but we overcut that one.
I don't know why I miss such easy shots.
We all do.
Make hard ones and miss easy ones.
Oh, that's the story of my life right there. Can always make some hard shots, but miss the really easy ones. All right, well, for solids now, this doesn't look like much here. Yeah, trying to bank the 3 ball into the cross-side pocket seems appropriate. But we banked that one a little wide there. This is turning out to be your most difficult rack.
slowed the other cue ball down. I didn't cut it.
That's all right, though.
This
Let's
is
go
pretty
back to
good.
solids. Nice shot there. Automatic position on the 1 ball. Okay, good shot there. Looks like we have position on the 6 ball. I'm curious if you actually rolled that a little too far. Good draw stroke there. You've made this shot before, avoiding the side pocket going down the rail. And you did it again. Awesome shot. Good position on the 3 ball. Ooh, can you reach it? Debating on whether or not to shoot with your offhand, but we're going to grab the bridge. All right. So I'm guessing you're going to want to try to draw this back so that we can shoot the 8 ball into the lower left corner pocket. But we weren't able to get the draw. Ooh, good try. Good try.
I was a little bit afraid of a scratch there.
Yeah, that's all right, though. It was a good effort, though. You just barely overcut the ball. Can we wrap this up as player 2? Or actually, this is player 1. Because you're back on stripes. Player 2 was solids. Oh, but that was your offhand, though. You looked like you were rather comfortable shooting with your offhand, though. How often do you do that? Good, strong finish there. Man, that was your toughest rack there. I think that cost you about 3 innings. And at least in this one here, I do have a few spots that we can talk about. So let's go take a look at them. So here's the first of 3 spots that I'm going to comment on for this final rack, and they're all going to be about pattern selection. This is the opening shot after the break when you had pocketed the 13 ball in the side pocket. Now with ball in hand, you decide to start with shooting the 14 ball into the side pocket, and with topspin, you allow your cue ball to roll forward for position on the 12. You had a bit of a stretch to try to reach the cue ball here because you did miss the 12 ball trying to go here into the lower right corner pocket. Now, with cue ball in hand, a principle that I like to teach my APA team members is that they should try to start with the ball that is the hardest to play position on that is makeable. Clearly, if there's a ball that's in a clutter, you wouldn't want to start with that ball. You'd want to try to maybe make another ball and break it out. So the 14 ball is actually a good ball to start with, considering that it can't go anywhere except for the side pocket, maybe even up into the upper right corner pocket. However, I don't think that's the ball I actually would have started with. I probably would have suggested starting with the 9 ball. You can place your cue ball over here to where you should be able to comfortably reach, and you can probably play a stop shot. or give yourself some sort of small angle to where you can just stun over, maybe bump into the 8 ball, or try to land pretty much where you're at so you can still play the 14 ball next and then proceed to run with the rest of your pattern. Now, I would have to think that if you were successful at making the 12 ball, you probably would have shot the 11 ball next and then used either the 10 ball or the 15 ball to get position on the 9 ball. I'm just merely suggesting why not take it out now, then run your same pattern, and therefore you can use the 15 ball or the 10 ball, especially to use one of them as your last ball to set up for the 8 ball. Here is the next spot that I'm going to comment on. This is where you're trying to shoot the 10 ball into the lower left corner pocket here, and it sounded like you were probably wanting to try to get position on the 9 ball here to go into the upper right corner pocket, possibly playing position on the 12, then the 11, and then trying to use the 15 ball to get position on the last ball. But you fell a little short and you landed somewhere right around here to where you shot the 15 ball next up into the upper left corner pocket and then got positioned to shoot the 9 in the lower right corner pocket, and that's when you missed. Now, considering that you had to shoot with the bridge here, I'm actually just surprised that you didn't try to shoot the 9 ball instead. Maybe this pole is in the way, which would make total sense as to why you didn't shoot it, because otherwise I would have suggested that. I probably would have shot the 9 ball into the lower right corner pocket, and judging by the angle here, it looks like your cue ball will naturally come into the short rail. You can probably put a little bit of top spin and even some left spin to help the cue ball get up over here to where you get position either on the 12 ball or further up on the 11 ball. But judging by the layout of the table, it would be best that we probably do get position on the 12 ball, because then we could do almost the same exact pattern that I think you had in mind. You shoot the 12 ball into the lower right, shoot the 11 ball into the upper right, and then get position on either the 10 or the 15 and still use one of them to get position on the 8 ball. So if this pole is not in the way, this is the shot that I probably would have suggested here. And this is going to be the final spot that I'm going to comment on. This is just after missing the 8 ball in the lower left corner pocket as player 2. Now, as player 1, you're about to try to shoot the 11 ball into the upper right corner pocket, but we ended up missing by not cutting it enough, and the 11 ball goes straight into the short rail, and then you were able to finish the rack off as player 2. Now, I have to believe the reason why you chose this shot here is because of this wired combination that you have here with the 12 ball and the 9 ball. You can practically make it from anywhere on the table. So if you were successful at making the 11 ball, you probably would have just tapped the cue ball into the 12 to pocket the 9 ball so that the 12 ball replaces the 9 ball, then shoot the 12 in, and then finish off the table with the 8 ball. Now, with my comment about how the combination can be practically made from anywhere on the table, that's why I would suggest shooting that now, because you don't have to shoot it with your offhand. You can pretty much tap the 12 ball into the 9 ball, have the 9 ball go in, and have the 12 ball replace the 9 ball, and it really doesn't matter where the cue ball lands. If you wanted to, you could probably still go up table to shoot the 11 ball and then come back down and shoot the 12 ball again to get position on the 8. Otherwise, if the 11 ball proves to be too much of a difficult shot after making the combination, you use the 12 ball to get position on the 11 ball, because we already know that you can make the 8 ball from up here, because that's how you finish the table anyway. At least with this different shot pattern here, you wouldn't have to shoot with your offhand. So even though that wired combination is simple and shooting this shot here is rather simple as well, I probably would not suggest it, considering that you're shooting it with your offhand. So Gene, this is pretty much what I have for you after these 3 racks of 8 ball that you were able to complete in a total of 6 innings, which is completely awesome. I really liked how you kept things simple with your cue ball movements and pattern selections, considering your physical limitations that you have with your rotator cuffs. And I do have to say, with what you showed us here, it does match up with your APA skill level as a 6, maybe even borderlining as a 7. So let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to review your game. I hope that the information that I was able to provide in this video you'll be able to find helpful to continue to improve your game, regardless if you rejoin the APA League or not. Because if you do rejoin the APA League, it won't be long until you're officially a skill level 7. So viewers, what do you think of that assessment? Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? And just like I've always requested of you, if you think there is any other types of advice that you'd like to give, or if you saw any other types of run-out patterns that Gene maybe could have done during the course of these 3 racks, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below with the timestamp of the shot and the advice or run-out pattern that you'd want to give. And if you liked what you saw, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Take care, everybody.